Hello, hello. Thank you for watching. Hi, Keisha. Hi, John. I'm seeing lots of people jump in. Okay, I'm going to turn this around. We'll get started in just a second. Hello, Rhonda. Okay, hello. For those that don't know me, I'm Andrea Reynolds, and I was a teacher for 16 and a half years, and I am leaving the classroom because I feel very strongly about spreading the mission of bringing social studies back. And a big, huge part of that is civil rights and, the making sure that people's culture, sorry, I'm trying to talk too fast. People, who have not had their stories told, get their stories told. And let me go ahead and start and state the obvious, okay? Yes, I am a white female in America. And so it is very hard to know the right things to say sometimes, or feel like, and I want to follow up, I listened to Amy Scope, and I wanted to just follow up on some of the things that she said. And because it is like, sometimes you're just afraid you're going to offend people, so people don't say anything, but we have to speak up. And everything that's happening in the news is, hi Tania, is so tragic and so just horrible, right now. And I don't want people to think that, oh, well, once I'm not going to have to, this is going to be not in the news anymore once school starts back. Well, it might not be, but guess what? Something else like it's going to happen. And it's just sad to say, because I remember the Charleston shooting, the church shooting happening, and it was before school started, and I was so glad that it wasn't during school, because it was just so, I didn't know how to explain it to kids, like what happened, but like it was still on their minds once school came back, and you have to address the issues. You have to. And I want to talk more about that, because we could debate like everything that's going on in the news right now and that, but we can't do anything to, like, I can't stop gun violence myself. I can't. And that's kind of what Amy was saying, I can't protect police officers. I can't protect, my former students or my son's friends, or, in the streets. And I wish I could, but I can empower kids, and I can help teachers empower kids. I'm gonna make sure I do have a point. So I just want to encourage you. You have to bring up these issues. You have to. And guess what? Most people already know my opinions about test scores, how I don't give a crap about data. And like, I made it my mission last year, when I knew it was my last year out, to leave a trail of like empowerment with kids and just like inspire their creativity, because that's what they need. They don't need to be tested, but I can't change that either. So I'm just trying to help people bring all this stuff in while still addressing the necessary evils of testing, because that's not going away. So yeah, definitely they shouldn't. And that's the thing. Here's the main idea why you have to address this in your classroom, because you don't know what kind of message the parents are giving kids at home. And a lot of kids, they don't know any better, because they're just going by what their parents say. And I had an instance, and I wrote about I do have a blog post about why you should use teaching tolerance, and more specifically about that. That's a great resource. But I don't want to, like, this is not about me promoting my website. I've shared it before, but it's like, you should definitely use teaching tolerance, and don't look up teaching tolerance. Use tolerance.org. But I broke down like exactly the parts, because there's a lot to it, and there's also a curriculum for language arts, and integrated curriculum that I think is so important. And that's how you can integrate these issues if you don't have time, is social studies. And I feel like I'm rambling, but that's just me. Yeah, definitely you do. And you have to, and okay, I remember what I was gonna say. Like I said, I'm trying to be politically correct, and I'm trying to make sure I have a point, and I'm like, that's the problem. It's because I know I don't want people to be like, well, who is this white girl? What does she have to say? Because okay, here's my thing. I am like ESOL certified, but that doesn't mean that I have walked a mile in someone else's shoes. It doesn't. I try to consider myself like someone who I think I did a good job with students, like talking about these issues. And I've done a good job with my own kids, and my daughter and I have our issues. Thank you. My daughter is 20, okay? And we have our issues, and we don't get along a lot of the time. But she said, Mom, the one thing you did right, not the one thing you did right. She was like, something that you did really well was that you taught us to, me and Zach, she's talking about my son, to, treat everyone the same. And I always tried to act that way with my students. And even this one little kid I had last year, he was a pain in the butt. A pain in the butt. Drove me crazy. But you better believe when this other girl said, what did she say? She called him called him a terrorist or something because he was Muslim. You better believe that I lit into that girl, and I've told the story before, and that's what inspired the Teaching Tolerance post. But you better believe I had his back, and I ripped into that girl, and she didn't know any better because she heard it at home. And she still, like, I tried to reason with her, and she still was like, did not think that what she said was wrong and didn't get it. And so, like I said, even if you still, yeah, exactly. You still have to, as white teachers, we can't be afraid to have these issues with our kid. Not have the issues. Address the issues. I did a lot of class meetings, and that was a really powerful, thing. And I couldn't do it as much last year because, I was departmentalized. But you have to have class meetings. You have to. And it's something you could do first thing in the morning or as needed or whatever. But you need to ask your kids, because you need to dispel some myths. Because first of all, okay, I was randomly talking about a song I was talking about House of Pain. And I was like, oh, that's a 90s rap group, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, they're a white rap group from the 90s. And one of the kids was like, that's racist. I was like, hold on a minute. Me classifying someone by their race is not racist. They think that if you say, oh, that person is black, or that person is Hispanic, or that person is African American, or you classify people, that's being racist. And so I had that discussion. You don't call, first of all, you're 10 and 11. You don't get to call someone else racist because you don't even know what that means. They don't understand that. And when I took the culture class as part of the ESOL endorsement, our brains, we are pre-wired to categorize things. When you see a pile of books, you're going to say, oh, this is this, just to make sense of everything in our brain. And so when I describe someone, I'm like, oh, that person is a redhead, that person is African American, and that's not being racist. That's just adjectives describing people. But if you say, if you guys all know what it means, but you have to tell them, if you stereotype a whole group of people and say all people that are this do this, then that's being racist and being prejudiced. And so that is the first discussion you need to have. You need to say, it's okay for you to say, oh, that person is this. But one thing I did, and I asked my students, I was like, because I struggle with saying black or saying African American. And I do use both of them, but I try to say African American. But I ask kids, I'm like, what would you like me to say? What would you like? Is it okay if I say black? Is it okay if I say African American? And I don't think a lot of white teachers would ask kids that. And so that's one thing, Ask if you're not sure where a student is from, ask them. Don't assume they're from Mexico if they're Hispanic. I worked with a lot of Hispanic kids because of the population of my school, and so that was a really powerful discussion because I just had a class meeting and I straight up 2 years ago, I was like, okay, I just let them talk. I just let them talk and just share instances. And half the class, we were all in tears because these kids, they realize what's happening and they get it. I had 10-year-olds saying, yeah, every time we get pulled over, because like I said, most of the population of my school is Hispanic, they're like, every time we get pulled over, people think we're illegal. Every time. And so the Hispanic people, they deal with that. People thinking they're illegal immigrants. Or people thinking like all they eat is burritos. And so the kids, like one of the kids was telling me about like how terrified he and his sister were when like their family got in a car accident, and how like the police officer was thinking that they're illegal or something. And so like our kids, they know what's going on. They do. And so first of all, you have to say, okay, it's not racist to just classify someone. It is by their race, their gender, whatever. And we don't even get into that issue, classifying that. But you know what I mean? Like just saying someone is white, saying someone is whatever. And so start by defining what that means. And I saw a comment in Other Scope that people were like, I've never heard anyone be racist in my class, blah, blah. That's bull crap. That is bull crap. These kids are racist to each other. They are. That is a bunch of crap. I'm sorry. It's nice and even after all the discussions I had, well, guess what? The kids in the other classes might not be having a discussion, and you go on the playground, and I swear to God, I have never been so angry as when I was outside on the playground. And sometimes, like, it's funny that I get more upset about stuff than some of, like, my coworkers who are African American. I think it's just so important for me, for people who feel like they don't have a voice, to be heard, because it's not my whole brain wiring, but I just want like people to have their stories to, be told. And so I just, like I said, I had, one of my coworkers, like a 6'4" African-American, Army vet. And so, we were outside in the playground, and I, remember there was this kid that was, the kid was Hispanic. And I was to just tell you guys that, at my school, like their kids come in pre-wired with like stereotypes in their brain. And we had a lot of conflict between like Hispanic kids and African American kids. And to think that your students don't have younger siblings in other grades thinking the same way is just naive. And on the playground, this kid said something about like look at all those black people playing in ball. He said the N-word. Like a kid said, and then he told, like he dared someone else to say it, and then a kid came over and told, and I was like, I had the other teacher deal with it, not because I'm white, but because I was so mad. I was afraid I was going to lose my job that day. It was just disgusting. And these kids, they will not just say like, oh, you're black, blah, blah. No, they will say racist, disgusting things. Disgusting. And that's because they hear them at home. And it is your job as a teacher to address it in the classroom and dispel myths and to just get those like stereotypes out there. Because when we had that one discussion about when we got into it, the kids just like shared examples, and it got into bullying. And the thing is, what you have to do with it is you have to give the kids an outlet after you have like a real serious discussion. You can't just like, oh, it's time for lunch, bye-bye. No, you give them like a writing, let them write or let them draw or let them do something. And my kids like made posters for, I wouldn't bring it up like the first week. I kind of did like as needed, but I did class meetings. Like I said, last year I was departmentalized, so I had 3 different classes. So I kind of just did like discussions as part of social studies. But and it's different with different grades. But I would just open up the floor by talking about like bullying first. And then bullying leads itself to later discussions talking about racism, because a lot of the bullying is because what I saw at my school was people like making fun of Asian people because of their eyes. And so and that starts with elementary kids, like they notice the difference in skin color. They notice the stuff, and just to think that your classroom is flowers and rainbows is bullcrap. It is. That your little 6-year-olds are not being racist to each other, they are. But 6-year-olds, they don't know any better, and neither do 5th graders. They don't, unless somebody says something. And you can't be afraid if you're white to address it, because I was the only white person in my classroom, okay? And I addressed it. I did. I just had them sit on the floor in a circle, and we just, like, I always how I started my class meetings was I start with a quote or something and say, like, what does this mean to you? And then, like, I might or show, like, a clip or something, which a lot of my social studies content, like, I taught Civil War through globalization. Like, a lot of my social studies content lends itself to those types of discussions. So that's, and I just found quotes off of Pinterest. Or, like, I found an acrostic about, like, diversity. And I would use John Lewis a lot of the time because I got to meet him. That was, like, and I drop that every chance I get because that was, like, one of the best experiences of my life at a social studies conference. And I'm not afraid to let my kids read the book March because it has, you know, and you can't be afraid. We did a door decoration about the book March. And it's a trilogy. And it's a graphic novel about Selma. And I was not afraid. Like, I would show documentaries that had the N-word in them because kids need to know how it was. They do. And I talked about this before with Free State of Jones. And my son was like, Mom, do you think that kids should see this movie? Because there are some young girls, and not super young, but like young-ish girls. And I was like, yes. I said they need to see this because I shared this before. Even myself, as, like, you know, knowledgeable about the Civil War era as I like to think I am, I didn't know anything about the whole apprenticeship thing during Reconstruction in Mississippi. I didn't know anything about that. And I think kids, and I know I do too, we take things for granted, and these kids don't realize, like, what sacrifices people have made so they can all be in school together. And they don't get it. And that's my whole thing. Like, they take stuff for granted, and then what you can do is I've opened it up to, like, when I think kids are taking stuff for granted, I bring it back to, okay, let's talk about where your family is from and what school is like in your family's home country. And so if you have a population with a lot of immigrant families, then it's going to be very enlightening. And that's, it's going to be a really eye-opening discussion because and then the kids are going to be like, oh, yeah, share your views to younger kiddos as a white teacher. I would just say, I'm trying to think, like, I wouldn't show them documentaries like I've shown. Like, I have taught younger grades, but I would start, like, keep it with bullying, and then, I would give them examples of I would be a role model is what I would do. I would, make sure I, feature, I wouldn't always say, okay, oh, all the athletes are black, or all the, you know, doctors are white. You know, I think you have to give kids role models from all backgrounds. And I think you can't let them think that, you know, if you're, how about this? Like, oh, well, black people can't swim. Because is that not a myth that black people are not good swimmers? Well, I just found an article recently how, some African American girls made the Olympic swim team. So that's how I would start with younger kids. I would just show them examples of people. Oh yeah. I wouldn't get with third grade. And the thing is too, like, I wouldn't try to act like you understand their point of view because I try to not come off like that, but I just try to, like, fancy myself as someone who is a little more informed and, you know, than regular people because my passion is history. My passion is Civil War in World War II. And Martin Luther King Jr. and I share a birthday. So how could I not, like, and I'm from Atlanta. So I just try to learn about more stuff than maybe other people do. Maybe I don't. I mean, I could be wrong. But like I said, it is hard. Yeah, you have to be authentic, and you can't try to use, like, you just have to think like a mom, and you have to think about how you would want your child to be treated. You do, and you have to, and it's hard sometimes to empower the kids and not scare them. Because honestly, after the kids will say, like, especially in 5th grade, like, they'll talk about after the Trayvon Martin thing, like, we got into a discussion about that one time, and I just flat told my boys, I was like, don't wear hoods. I said, don't. I said, it's a sorry thing that I have to say this to you, but, you know, I fear for you. And I was literally, like, in tears just thinking about, like, what if this was one of these boys? You know? I also fear for my son because he's white. And because he was getting into some trouble, and I'm afraid that he's, we live in a different population area. I mean, we have a variety of populations, and I'm afraid that he's going to get targeted because he's seen as coming from, whatever, like a good, I don't know for a good home, but you know what I mean? Like, he's coming from a background where he's had more advantages than other people, and I'm afraid that he's going to get targeted for that. And and I've told him not to wear hoods. I'm like, don't, you can't. And you just have to, just keep it real, but you can't scare them. You can't scare them. And you can't like shut the door on this issue. If they bring it up and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to teach fractions today, well, screw fractions, because you need to talk about this. Now, if it's something like, if there's been like a school shooting or something, that type of issue, I don't jump right into. I always get the guidance counselor's advice first. I will deal with like race issues and stuff like that, but if it has to do with like children, there was a child near our school that was found like murdered, and it like in an apartment complex near, like I did not bring that up. I don't like that issue. Child abuse, that's hard for me to bring up, but you have to like I said, find ways to incorporate it into language arts, and use teaching tolerance to find like reading passages about the issue. And then you can always, something I always did with close reading is after I had them annotate it, I would have them write a response, just a 3-sentence response. And then after you read their responses, you could have a discussion from that. But I would not necessarily, I would not go into the first week of school and be like, okay, kids, we're all this is an open door policy, and we are all equal, blah, 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 and we're not going to be racist, and this is what racism is. And no. You have to address things as they would naturally fall into your curriculum, or things in the media. And vocabulary is great. Like the Week in Rap, and now there's a Week in Rap Junior, then that they handle stuff in a a kid friendly way. So that's a good place to find information. But like I said, don't every time after one class meeting, the kids were like, we want to do a no bullying club. And so yeah, definitely. And I was like, that's awesome. I think this is an awesome idea. They're like, can we hang up posters? I was like, yes, absolutely. So you have to give them an outlet after, and that's something that I did. I did a lot of confidence building talks with I did a lot of pep talks and a lot of stuff like this, because that's just me. And I could give a crap less about data. I don't care about their test scores one bit. I don't. And I don't care about their grades. I care about empowering them as people. And that's one reason why I left formal teaching, because I just don't give a crap about data. I don't care about test scores. And so that was something that I would say, you have to help build up your kids. And I would say, you have to realize, your gifted kids, you have to realize how hard they are on themselves. They're they could be extremely hard on themselves, and you have to empower them. You have to give them an outlet. And I would just, I would tell them, find exercise. Exercise is something. And I said, don't necessarily go outside, but think about ways. And I would do yoga. They could do Go Noodle. You could do Go Noodle on a phone. They could the relaxation techniques. Yeah. And I just did them whenever I could. But like I said, I would start out with a classmate. I would start talking about bullying at the beginning of the year, because kids don't understand what bullying is. So I would just start with that, and or even frame it in a confidence way, because that's what I tried to do. I tried to say, I tried to help them not see that, okay, you're not going to be able to stop other people from saying stuff, but I would teach them to how they can react to it. And because I had a thing in my room that said, I am the boss of me. And that's true. You're only the boss of you, and I can't control how other people act, and I can't control the nasty things that come out of people's mouth. I can control what I say and how I deal with it. And so that's something that you have to, and it's hard for them, especially if their families feel a different way. So, and I recognize that. You have to still, You have to tell them, like, I remember something like one of the kids was like, well, my dad says blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? You don't have to, I said, you have to listen to that. I know, like, kids, I would tell them, like, you're not going to be able to, like, argue with your parents and change your parents' minds about, like, if they have prejudices. You're not going to be able to do that. But what you can do is just be like, just let it, like, go in one ear, out the other, and you form your own opinions. So you can't just sit there and think you're going to change the world by just telling. You have to give them strategies, and you have to empower them with, you know, things they can do if they're upset, and help build their confidence. And you have to tune into those ADHD kids and not let them drive you crazy, because if their confidence is the worst, I'm telling you, if you don't believe me, you read my manifesto about it that I wrote last weekend. So you have to empower those kids, and you have to look for the quiet kids. You have to have the discussions. You have to go there, because if you don't, then you are just missing out, because you are not building test takers. You are building citizens, and change is going to happen like one small step at a time. And you can't be afraid, if you're white, to discuss these things. And like I said, it's exactly, and you're not being real. You're not being real. So what if I just had kids like memorize the "I Have a Dream" speech for Martin Luther King Jr. Day? Are you just so? And that's what irritates me, is people just like jump on, like today. Okay, I talk about this stuff all year round. I do. I talk about veterans all year round. Veterans Day. I talk about, you know, stuff like that all year round. I hope that people don't just like, I think that like this Teachers for Black Lives or whatever, I didn't use that hashtag because I feel like I just feel like hashtags lend themselves to bandwagons, but I'm not on a bandwagon. This is my mission year round, and I hope that I prove that, and I try to, but I just hope that people don't just aren't all fired up now, and then once school starts, they just forget, you know, because that happens. Let's be real. I'm a keep it real person, and my mouth gets me into trouble sometimes, but oh well. Like I said, it's especially hard. It really is hard, like, because I know people are like, you know, I grew up in clearly I'm white, Mayflower descendants, okay? Like, I grew up in an upper middle class area, and so I know that my experience is completely different than other people's, and I know that. And so I still think, and I forget that, though. I forget it because I think, well, I am ESOL certified, and I do this, blah, blah, blah. Well, I still, like, you still can't, like, walk a mile in someone else's shoes. So I still have to check myself before I wreck myself sometimes, because I get into, I know everything. Well, I don't. And that's why I really love those blabs that, the diversity blabs. I think that should be something that should be more year round. And I think that people should not be afraid to get on Periscope and talk about this stuff. So what if you get creepers? Block them. I had a creeper party yesterday, and I snapped on them. But you know, you have to bring it up, and I guess that's my point. Yes, good. I think that would be awesome. It was great. And like I said, John, I just have so much respect for him, and he is just like, you know, what he wrote a Facebook status yesterday, and it was so powerful. He's just such an eloquent, well-spoken, you know, and he's such a great writer, too. If you've ever read his website, his blog, it's, you know, and I forgot, he used to do, like, the Monday Inspiration. He's a really talented writer, and he's, like, someone that you should definitely look to as a positive role model. And, like I said, use teaching tolerance. There's also the National Women's History Museum, because I think you have to make sure you empower your girls too, because we know that, you know, cultural differences can lend themselves to girls not feeling as empowered. And so I follow their Facebook page, the National Women's History Museum, and I think that's the name of it. Yeah, I share their stuff all the time. They share examples of, you know, women of all different races. And so I sometimes, you know, I'll find like articles about that, or you could just say, you know, if you follow that page, then, oh, it's so-and-so's birthday. Did you know? Blah, blah, blah. 5 minutes. And, or you could have like a featured person of the day, or like but I think you have to give kids role models of all different races, all different genders, you know, and you have to bring up tough issues, and you have to not be afraid that you're going to not be politically correct. Because guess what? No matter what, there's probably someone listening right now that thinks I'm a complete moron. Well, I don't care. That might be true sometimes. You can't be afraid. To, and especially like, you know, if you're an African American teacher and you have a lot of white students, you can't be afraid to bring up this topic, because I promise you that a lot of those kids probably want to do something, but they don't know what to do. And so it's your job, it's our job to, and I say yours because I don't have a home. I am going to find a way to stay connected to kids somehow, because I will miss that part. So I will just do like, I'm happy to give my 2 cents about this topic anytime, but don't be afraid. It doesn't matter what your class makeup is. You have to address it. And if you come to it from a place of thinking like a mom, or, you know, thinking like and not trying to, just let the kids talk. They will guide the discussion, because kids, they can be so profound sometimes. So profound. And they realize more than you know. And it could be a student-led discussion, you know? Let the kids talk. It doesn't have to be, you know, you just lecturing. That's what the class discussions were. They didn't even have to raise their hand in a class discussion. We sat in a circle, and like, kids are so trained by 5th grade to raise their hand that it's like impossible to break that habit. But when you're sitting in a circle, like class discussion, I would always do shout outs too. Like, that was something, I had a shoebox that said choose kind, because like I had made it after I read Wonder to one of my classes, which was an awesome book, for upper elementary. But you could start your class meeting with like shout outs, like, and limit the kids, because they'll put too many, like, positive things people have been doing that week or whatever. And then what I would do is just like, here's a quote. And then maybe I might have like a YouTube or a vocabulary or something that went along with a quote. And then I would just like open up the floor to discussion, and kids would just talk. And that was not something that I had to have some kind of like lesson plan for. And sometimes the class, no. I would just do them. I did do them weekly. No, and you can't, like, I think a lot of people ideally, I think it would be awesome to have like some kind of class meeting first thing every day, but that's not always feasible. And you can't have like a serious like discussion every day, because these discussions turn like 30, 45 minutes, an hour sometimes with 5th grade. So those types of, and then like it got to be like a chore, and then I stopped doing them as much, and the kids missed them. They really liked the class meetings. Like, when are we going to do a class meeting? So I would say like, this is the kind of thing like perfect for like a Friday afternoon or something. You know, Friday afternoon when you're like, oh my God, these kids are driving me crazy. What can I do to not pull my hair out? Then let them talk, because they're going to want to talk anyways. So let them share for evil. I mean for good, not evil. Sorry. Good Lord. So yeah. There's no right or wrong way to do class meetings. There's not. And like I said, my whole thing is, in my whole like next phase of what I'm doing with my business, this like social studies coaching brainstorming sessions, I'm not going to tell people what to do in their classroom. I'm going to help you brainstorm what you can do to make your lessons work for you. Like, use what you have and help spark ideas for you. I'm not ever one that's like, you have to do things this way. No, because I'm not that way. I put my own spin on stuff. So yeah, like I said, that's something to think about. I've probably been talking forever. I need to eat lunch. But thank you for watching, and let me show you that article about teaching tolerance. Thank you. The blog post that I shared, because that I wrote, because I broke down like how to like the different parts of thanks, y'all. The different parts of teaching tolerance. And you guys, and I linked to this on my website, Tania. If you're not following Tania, Teach Me T, you need to read her website because she teaches first grade and she brought up cultural diversity and cultural appreciation. She does stuff with first graders. So she's a great person for primary. Here's my site. Also one of my really good friends. Here, I don't know why my phone does that every time with the colors. Stop it. But my website is Running Things with Runnels. The link in my profile is going to take you to my email list, which I'm not trying to promote right now. That would be in bad taste. It's runningthingswithrunnels.com. And I broke down like why you should use teaching tolerance because it can be overwhelming and there's a lot to the site that you might not know. So definitely check out that website, and if you want to know more about it, I broke it down in on my blog. And you can just I have a search bar now. This is how I found it myself. When you go to my website, because you're going to get overwhelmed with the manifesto from ADHD, if you just go to my site, just type there and just type teaching tolerance and you'll find it. The search bar works really well on my site. Like if you need social studies sites, whatever. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.